compatible with aspirations of superpowers. So, the question that arises whether this impression is justified, yes or not. I suggest to our speakers to concentrate in order to find an answer to the following aspects. What means to be a small and a medium state in EU and in international politics? Which are the main challenges the small and medium states face currently in the EU and international politics? And how can a small and a medium state influence the EU politics and international politics? Maybe there are too ambitious questions for only around 60 minutes, but we'll try. We'll try to find likely answers to these questions. So allow me to introduce speakers. We have, for the moment, only 6, but we'll have 7 outstanding speakers. Mrs. Zanda Kalina Lukashevitsa, Parliamentary Secretary from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Latvia. Thank you very much for being here. From a small state to a larger state, from Germany. Mr. Christoph Zobel, Special Advisor on Central and Eastern Europe for the Chairman of the Party of European Socialists. Thank you very much. From Poland, Mr. Piotr Ebel, Member of Sejm. Thank you very much. From Romania, we are waiting him. It will be a former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lazar Romanescu, but we'll applaud him when he will be arrived. And I will continue. Mr. Hans Moritzen, Senior Researcher from Denmark, Research Unit on Foreign Policy and Studies, Danish Institute for International Studies. And I move on now to non-EU countries. Mrs. Rasha Al-Jundi, Senior Researcher, Orient Research Center, United Arab Emirates. Thank you very much. And certainly, last but not least, from Ukraine, Mr. Rostislav Tomenchuk, Chairman of the Ukrainian Institute for International Politics. Thank you very much. We have to start maybe with an EU perspective. And certainly, assumption is that the voice of small states are weaker and weaker. And we could put the question in the EU politics. The size is important. And I might say that the answer might be yes and no. Might be yes, when we are talking maybe about the decision in the Council of Ministers. The decision is based on double majority criteria, based on number of countries and based on population. The answer might be yes if we look at the European Parliament, when the number of MEPs is related more or less to the number of the population. But at the same time, the answer is no. The size is not so important in the EU. When we look, for example, at the EU Commission. In the EU Commission, each member state, bigger or smaller, has a representative. Or if we look at the rotating presidency of the Council of Ministers, for each member state, bigger or smaller, for 6 months. So, saying that, I would like to start our discussion by giving the floor to Mrs. Zanda Kalina Lukashevitsa. And I'd like to say that not so long ago, in the first semester of 2015, your country had the rotative presidency of the EU, and you were directly involved in handling of the whole process. So, from your experience, how can a smaller EU member state influence the decision-making process of Brussels?
Thank you, and a very good afternoon to everybody. Yes, indeed, I come from Latvia, and traditionally we consider Latvia as a small state. But at the same time, actually it is larger in size than Denmark, Netherlands, Poland, Slovakia, Croatia, and other European countries. So should we consider really Latvia with its 64,000 square kilometers and 2 million inhabitants, a small country? And let's think about it from a broader perspective. And I would like to really structure my short intervention into 3 points, talking about size, about dangerous attempts in international politics, and about alliances. So Latvia, being a part of the EU, as you mentioned, we can think that we are a small member state, but we can also think that, and what I'm thinking, that Latvia is as big as the EU. Because, so the power of the EU gives the power and weight for Latvia as well. And therefore, I believe that especially on the global stage, Latvia is as big as the European Union, and as strong and as influential as the European Union. And therefore, we are interested to have strong and influential and united European Union. And being part of the European Union, it is not about being small or big primarily. I think it's more about being fast or slow, about having our government innovative or old school, and whether our country is a leader or a follower. So therefore, I would strongly question the statement also that the small states are only backbenchers in the international politics and are only followers of the big powers. I think the main thing is that I cannot agree to the statement that was written in the a description of the panel, that we are witnessing attempts and that we are witnessing coming back of the 19th century international power games. Because if we would accept it, that it could happen, but we cannot afford that. I think we cannot afford accepting these kind of attempts from one player. Yes, it's true that Russia would like to play that kind of game and come back to the 19th century power politics. But since the 19th century Vienna Congress, a lot has happened, and we have Helsinki Accords right now, and we have agreed to have a rules-based international order and one size-based international order. So, and I think we all know that one of the basic principles of Helsinki Accords is the rights of every country to join the alliances it chooses. So when we talk about the alliances, and you also asked to mention some examples. So let's take one example and quite influential one, the NATO. Definitely, NATO is our security alliance. And I think it is not about big countries dictating the policy of the alliance, quite contrary. It is the burden sharing between the countries, between the partners, taking responsibility, helping each other, and strengthening our security, and strengthening also our ability to protect our citizens and to reassure us. So also these kind of alliances show that not the size matters, but the agreement to share the burden. And to conclude, a few words about the challenges of small states in this international fora. I think what is right that the free world order is facing really huge challenges from pressure from adversaries and skeptics. The free world order is challenged by nationalism and populism. And but strengths of nation states, and especially smaller states, lies into openness, cooperation, and integration. So therefore, I think the challenge is to stay big in our will and to stay big in our trust into the free world order, into the rule of law, and into the rules-based international order. And then the size will not be the first who decides the destiny of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, speaking about the first semester of 2015, maybe you could give us an example just to see that the size is not so important in the EU. Even a very small state could have the presidency, and you do that in the first semester. Maybe you could give us an example to see that the dimension, the population is not so important. So in the EU, maybe the size is not important. The size measured in the number of the population.
Three short examples. First of all, the telecommunication market. For years, the bigger presidencies of the bigger member states couldn't agree on the new rules for telecommunication market. Latvia managed to achieve the agreement, and now we have quite considerable changes in the prices for mobile phones and roaming. The second example is the PNR, passenger name record. Also, the topic that was not able to solve for years in the EU, and Latvia being a small and efficient presidency, achieved the agreement. And the last example, putting a new topic on the table. In 2015, we said that the disinformation campaigns, the propaganda coming from Russia, is a huge problem. At the beginning of 2015, it was not like every EU member country agreed that it is a problem, but we agreed that EU have to be able to face the disinformation campaigns. So the other countries agreed to follow our suggestion that it is a problem. And today we see that it was a timely decision to create East platform to prepare us and to face all kinds of disinformation campaigns, fake news, and propaganda. So every presidency can do a lot if it's efficient and fast.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Mr. Christoph Zoffel, a personality in the field of European affairs, and let me just to mention some former positions I saw on your CV: former Minister for Federal Affairs, small and medium countries in the current European context.
Let me start with a remark on Germany and the present situation. That Germany, in the moment, has a certain kind of important influence is a result of the speculation of global financial players. Germany has no budget deficit. Some smaller European countries have a budget deficit, and that is the role the German finance minister can play, and that these countries will overcome this, but that is a problem. Secondly, if other member states of the EU are becoming nationalistic, they are stupid. If Germany is becoming nationalistic, that would be a danger. Until now, all German governments since '59, or let us say since Germany became member of the EU, were not nationalistic. It's the contrary. It was in favor of the European Union. But I think all states on the way to becoming nationalistic, they have to be aware if Germany would become that, that would be a problem. At the moment, certainly, there is a problem with refugees and migration. It's understandable that Germany say all other countries also should do a burden sharing. But I think in reality it's an illusion because of different culture and history. And as we know, nobody can be first, because in this case there could be a veto, maybe by Hungary, maybe by Poland. So I think the German policy cannot be successful in this case. That's a general answer. My general answer And that is the reason that I'm engaged European. The only way that smaller states, at least in Europe, can remain influence in the world is to be member of the EU. It's the only way, there is no alternative. So some general remarks. First of all, to the title of this panel, No Roma. We have no Roma in the world. Only the United Nations could be a Roma. Until now, the United Nations are not a Roma. Secondly, 19th century, small states are a result of a development beginning after the First World War. Before the First War in the 19th century, we had no smaller states. All the states were very large, being colonial powers and multi-ethnic, or was together. So this development of smaller states is a development after the Second World War. Certainly, if we speak about superpowers, we should define it. And I would say there are three criteria. One, population. In this case, worldwide, we have only two superpowers, China and India. Secondly, you can speak about economic power. Then we have two or three. The United States, China, and maybe Japan. Or we can speak about military power, then we have three, United States, Russia, and China. No other country has power, and if you look at the three criteria, one of the problems of Europe is that Russia is a power very, very weak, only having some nuclear weapons. That is the only danger. So, if we I already mentioned that at least so dangerous like superpowers is the power of the global financial players, the speculation. That is the main problem of such problems of European countries. So I think it's to have some considerations in which way smaller states can be still powerful. Main condition, they have to be a stable budget. Without a stable budget, you have no chance that the Switzerland is a little bit powerful. That is a result of the stable budget of the Switzerland. So now I make in which way states could be powerful in all dimensions, especially in population. You can laugh now, but I say if the EU, the community of independent states and the Arab League would build a union, they would have less inhabitants than China or India. That is the reality of superpowers, at least in the future. So I already mentioned the EU is the only solution. A union, a federation, whatever wording you like, but now look to the possibilities of states in this union. I would say, looking to important personalities representing the European Union, Luxembourg is the most powerful member state of the EU. It has the most presidents of the EU now, Mr. Juncker, Mr. Thorn, and so on. I would say it's the most influential. I would say a citizen of Luxembourg is 100 times so influential in Europe like a German. That is a very simple relation. You can have some considerations about the constitution of the EU, and from my point of view, the citizens and smaller states have more influence if the parliament is strong. If the parliament is strong, you mentioned any country has one commissioner. I think that this is a moment completely acceptable and necessary, but I think the commission is not effectively controlled. That is a problem of problems with the commission. And certainly I think this way that governments are doing that more or less without transparency is a problem. So I think a real parliamentarian transparency would strengthen the smaller states. And now my last remark. Can a member state of any union or federation make its own policy? That you can learn from Germany. I would say Bavaria is in some cases more influential in Europe than at least than Cyprus, Malta, and maybe some other small states. So I would say the EU is the only solution in the interest of smaller European states.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zohor. This might be maybe the conclusion of our panel, but we have to wait. until the end. So now
It's open if we agree.
now I would like to move on from Germany to a
Microphone.
former ambassador of Romania in Germany.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. So, I said that I would like to move on from Germany to a former ambassador in Germany. And I'd like to invite Mr. Lazar Comanescu to take the floor, but not before to say just a few words about his very remarkable CV. Mr. Comanescu has a remarkable experience in European affairs. He is former head of mission of Romania to NATO.
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, do apologize for the fact that I was late. I have to say that this is not an excuse, but I was totally dependent on the way how the, let's say, transportation from the hotel I was located in to here to the convention center was organized, and I was told. Once again, I'm not trying to find excuses, but I was told that a shuttle would be there in my hotel at 6 o'clock, so as 20 minutes is enough to come here. What happened is that the shuttle came only 20 minutes to 7, so that's it. Now, without prejudging whatever the conclusion of this panel will be, I would start by saying that almost certainly, I will associate myself to what Mr. Topol was saying about the importance of the European Union. Before elaborating a little bit on that, let me first thank the director of the Romanian European Institute and the organizer here in Krynica for inviting me to this panel. I accepted with pleasure this invitation since I was provoked in a way by the title of the topic which we are talking about. And as not much, I will not now enter into a debate or into theoretical approach towards what small and medium states may mean, what big powers may mean, because as it was mentioned here already, there are several criteria upon which we may make such classification. But so not entering into this type of debate, I would simply start by sharing with you some considerations derived from my experience as Mrs. Drăgan was saying, as a person which almost spent 20 years or more working with in Romanian diplomacy and dealing mainly with European affairs. My first consideration is that definitely the experience shows that, and especially in an ever more globalized world, there is no chance for the, let's say, smaller or medium-sized countries other than getting integrated into larger structures. Of course, that depends upon what type of integration they may face. Because you know, in the past, we in Romania and other countries, including Poland, experienced some kind of integration, which was the common economy. That was not the big difference is that when in the case of common economy, there was one big power and the rest just were about to follow. Another integration, which is the process of European integration, is one which is based on values. And that is the only way for the small and medium countries in Europe, and not only in Europe, to play a role, or to increase their role in these organizations and these structures. And coming to the European Union, I would say that the most important thing for the countries like mine is to promote and to act so as to have a ever stronger European Union. I'm saying that in spite of the fact that in the last few years we've been crossing crisis which may have led to doubts about the process of European integration. Nevertheless, I'm from my heart convinced that there is no alternative to a stronger, ever stronger European Union. I will not now elaborate on the various scenarios which have been put forward by the European Commission in the recent past, but definitely that's my first consideration. How to do that? What could the small and medium countries do in order to provide for that? I would say that first and foremost, they should continue to promote an appropriate balance, equilibrium between what we usually qualify as community method and intergovernmentalism. If intergovernmentalism is prevailing, then it's definitely clear that the big ones are in a better position to determine a way of how to shape decisions and how to adopt decisions. I wouldn't say that let's say, favor a stronger institution as compared to the other one. But there is a need of a check and balance. Mr. Tsopel was mentioning the fact that the Commission does not benefit of, let's say, the appropriate control. He's absolutely right. But are the other institutions, and especially the European Parliament, aware about what they should do in this respect? Because I remember it was quite recently, when the President of the European Council and the President of the Commission were in the European Parliament, and only 30 or 40 MPs of more than 7,000 were there. How comes to be convincing as an institution that you provide for the control? That's one point. Second, I would say that it's extremely important for the small and medium countries to be active in sustaining and promoting an inclusive approach towards the development of various mechanisms as institutions. Otherwise, again, if it is not an inclusive process, of course you have the Eurogroup. Some would say that there has to be kind of, let's say, Eurogroup Parliament inside the European Union, but that would definitely not lead to a kind of, let's say, consensus. Would not help in what I would say the necessity of working towards strengthening the European Union as a result of the work of all the member states. Third, it is extremely important to provide for an appropriate balance between what I would call national interests and European interests. And I would even say that a country is more successful in presenting and promoting her national interests so long as those interests are shaped in a way to be looked at by the other member states also as for their interests. This is a very, very important point. And that brings me to the role that the member states can play when they hold the presidency of the European Union. And there, for a small and medium country, it is extremely important when it's holding the presidency, and those who have already done it may confirm what I'm saying, is that it's important for them to play the role of focus group, so as to bring together around an initiative which may be promoted, all to the extent possible, all the countries. I know that among the member states, there is this, and especially at the level of the governments, the level of the officials, I experienced that myself. Each of these countries be as much represented, as highly represented, as quantitatively and qualitatively in the European institutions, which is true. In my opinion, what is most important is that we pay more attention to the quality of the representation. As to the functioning of the Commission, because as it was mentioned here, there is, for the time being, it seems to be quite, let's say, sensitive to talk about, let's say, a smaller number of commissioners, though the Treaty of Lisbon has been opening the way for that. I know it is sensitive, but on the other hand, one should be as pragmatic as possible and ask himself or herself. Well, I've seen that when in a country, governments are consisting of a small number of portfolios, it seems that they are a little bit more efficient. Perhaps it's something to be considered when looking into how the institutions are functioning. Last but not least, I would say that back to this need of balance among the institutions and the need of avoiding a dominance by intergovernmentalism. We've seen here comes the role of the Commission to be much more active and they have to use in a better way what is provided in the treaties, the right to initiative. I'm saying that because when we look at what is happening in the last 4 or 5 years, the financial crisis, again with regards to the migration, almost everything has been dealt with and decided just by the European Council. I'm not talking about if and what, and how they decide on that. But there may be a question of credibility when, for example, the European Council is meeting frequently. On the migration, it was meeting almost every month. And looking into what results have been obtained, well, the public opinion may ask, where is the efficiency of the organization? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Romanescu, and allow me to apologize on behalf of Polish organizers for the shorter timetable. And allow me